back into Good Morning KU. I'm Jackson Long here, happy to bookend the David Beatty press conference, his first press conference as the new head coach of Kansas football. We'll take a look at a couple important notes here. David Beatty ran fast-paced offenses where he's been. He was the offensive coordinator down at Rice, and then here at KU, where KU scored the most points. It had about 24 a game, where recently they've been as low as 17. And then he went down to be the wide receivers coach at Texas A&M. And during his time at KU and Texas A&M, he's coached a pair of high-profile quarterbacks, Todd Reesing and Johnny Manziel, both kind of a similar mold as well. So Michael Cummings has a similar skill set. You could see him potentially take on one of those roles. Obviously, some big shoes there with Reesing and Johnny football. Interim head coach Clint Bowen will stay around as the defensive coordinator for the Jayhawks and an assistant head coach. The two have a fantastic relationship. They're good friends. Their families actually vacation together during the offseason. So a couple big notes there. And then what has been the norm for KU in December is a new head football coach. So there it is again. David Beatty coming over from the wide receivers coach position at Texas A&M to be the new football coach. That was announced Friday for the Kansas Jayhawks. All right, now Coach Beatty had to quickly deal with some head coaching duties. Wide receiver Rodriguez Coleman was arrested on a battery charge early Sunday morning. He was posted a $100 bond. This was located just outside the Oriat Hotel. And also in similar news, Kansas basketball player Jamari Traylor was also arrested early Sunday morning outside the Oriat Hotel. Traylor, a junior, was arrested on the municipal charge of interfering with the duties of a police officer. Both Traylor and Coleman posted $100 bond. Bill Self released the following statement regarding the incident. Quote, "We were made aware of the situation concerning Jamari late last night. We have been gathering information all morning and will continue to do that. This will certainly be addressed and handled as we receive complete information," end quote. And the college football playoff, the first ever bracket was announced Sunday, and boy did it send some shockwaves, particularly through this region of the country. And top-seeded Alabama, no surprise, as the Crimson Tide won the SEC with a championship win over Mizzou. And there's the evil Nick Saban clap, and he knows what he's doing. He's been to the title game multiple times during the past format and again here. Some of the other matchups, Oregon, the Pac-12 champs, take on Florida State, and then Alabama gets Ohio State, the Big Ten champions, in that 1-4 matchup. They're all playing for this big, shiny trophy. And it'll be the first time a bracket format works there. And then the first two out, this is the big shocker here, is both Big 12 teams, Baylor and TCU, are on the outside looking in. So the Big 12 co-champs, Baylor and TCU. Baylor, of course, beat TCU 61-58. Left on the outside looking in. Keep in mind, this is the only Power 5 conference without a championship game and the only Power 5 conference without a team in the championship bracket. So now we're going to bring in our multiple insider this time, Griffin Hughes. Griffin was on the call yesterday for KHHK Radio for the women's basketball game as they took down California, 10th ranked California, 62-39. Griffin, what was the atmosphere like in that game?
Well, 10th ranked, formerly undefeated Cal Golden Bears went down in Allen Fieldhouse last night. It was the craziest women's game I've ever been a part of. The fans were getting into it. They loved it. They loved every player. I mean, any player that left the court, whether it was Gardner, Aldridge, Natalie Knight, they all left to booming applause from the fans. The band was into it. It was an atmosphere. If you took about 10,000 fans out of Allen Fieldhouse for a men's game, that's pretty much what it would be like.
So fantastic. The crowd helps, but obviously the players. What was the biggest offensive key, or excuse me, what's the biggest key of the game for the Jayhawks in this one?
Well, I'm glad you corrected, because the biggest key of the game was actually the defense, and it was locked down on the perimeter. I think Cal, if I remember correctly, scored a grand total of 4 points that were not in the paint. They have some size, and the Jayhawks played to that advantage. They let Cal score in the paint, but the perimeter defense was the best I've seen from the Jayhawks all year. Lauren Aldridge was locked down, but Shayla Cheadle had the task early on. She started, and she had the task of guarding Brittany Boyd, who's a constant triple-double threat. She's on the watch list for the best player in women's college basketball, and she did a fantastic job. Eventually, Brittany Boyd did foul out of the game. And
Chelsea Gardner, always a stud. You can kind of count on her game in and game out. Who else led the Jayhawks on Sunday?
Well, the guy I was with to call the game, Anthony Capra, said that Chelsea Gardner had to score at least 20 points or the Jayhawks would lose. So she scored 20 points. Obviously, the Jayhawks won. The biggest contribution I saw, though, Lauren Aldridge. And I've been saying it all year. She's a stat sheet filler. She does the little things. She doesn't necessarily score a lot of points. She only had 11. But she added 4 boards. She had 5 assists, a couple steals. But what she does so well, better than really anybody else in the country, is run the game perfectly. I mean, there are point guards who run their game plan, but Lauren Aldridge runs a complete game that's fast-paced, and she does it better than really anybody else in the country. She's a stud as well, and she's only a freshman, so I get to watch her mature and get even better year by year and become a better scorer. And the 11 points were encouraging.
That's right. You're a young gun, so you get the benefit of being around for, I guess, 3.5 more years as we get ready to close this semester. I jumped the gun a little bit early, so I asked about the offense. Now I want to know about what was the biggest thing that the offense did to extend their lead on Cal last night?
Well, with the offense, it was three-point shooting. They shot 64% from three. They missed their first one, and then after that, they made 5 in a row. It was Natalie Knight. Aldridge got in on it. Let's see. Those were really the big two. I think Shayla Cheadle hit one. Terriel Bradley had one. It was three-point shooting, and I haven't seen them shoot the three like that. They were only 40% from the field, but the way they shot the three was just incredible. And also 95% from the line. They had made 18 in a row before Kaylin Manning-Allen stepped up with about 15 seconds left. The game was over, and she missed her first. 19 of 20 overall. That was huge. 19 free points for them.
A fantastic showing, both from at the stripe and behind the arc for the Jayhawks yesterday. So they get the big win. I mean, a convincing victory over Cal.
Very convincing.
Less than convincing, though, are the Kansas City Chiefs, who have lost their third straight game. They fall 17-14 to Arizona. And Kansas fumbled late in the game. And are they out of the playoff race with 3 games remaining?
Well, you know, that fumble was questionable, to say the least, about it. And I walked into the media room during the women's game as that happened, and it was just outrage in there. I don't know. I don't think they're out of the playoff race yet. My gut tells me that they're still in it. There's 2 teams in front of them. Both of them are from the AFC North. So, you know, they still have to play each other. There's still some movement that could happen. My gut tells me they're not out of it yet. At 7-6, they could finish at 9-6. That usually is a playoff record. You know, maybe the last wild card spot. Excuse me. They still have a great pass defense. I don't think they're out of it yet. Not with their schedule. They still have the Raiders, so that's the big one. They have to go and beat the Chargers. I mean, it's a must-win every game now.
Yeah, I think 3-0 could be the threshold. They need to finish out undefeated, which doesn't look too promising after 3 straight losses. Now,
very true.
We're going to dive into the NFC South. It's about as bad as it can get. Who actually comes out of that division and gets a playoff spot with likely a losing record?
You know, I think it's the Falcons. I see it. I mean, the Panthers are out of it. The Buccaneers are out of it. It's a 2-team race between the Falcons and Saints. The Saints have been awful at home. They've lost 4 in a row. The Falcons continue to hold their home field advantage in the Georgia Dome. When you look at Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, the 2 teams are comparable. Matt Ryan is playing a little bit better right now. He's playing like an elite quarterback. It's just the rest of his team that's letting him down. The receiver core is bad because other teams are saying, hey, I can just shut down Julio Jones and it's over. Matt Ryan's still playing like an elite quarterback. They still play well at the Georgia Dome. They're going to get out, but it'll probably be with a losing record.
And amazing how the NFL shapes each and every year. And so many surprises, and some of those surprises are found in this year's wild cards. Pittsburgh now with 8 wins. They got a big win over Cincinnati. And then the Lions are an emerging team out of that NFC North. Who's the bigger surprise in each league?
You know, I think the bigger surprise is actually the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm going to say that because the Lions, for the last 3 or 4 years, they've been up and down. You know, we see them and we say, well, Matt Stafford's a 5,000-yard passer. He's
Calvin
the first
Johnson's
guy to do that
been
twice.
there.
Calvin Johnson is the best receiver since Jerry Rice, no question about it. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know, I thought Roethlisberger had just fallen. I thought he was gone from the ranks of even, you know, great quarterback. I thought he was just good. I didn't think Le'Veon Bell was a star, but they've changed their identity. They're second in passing. They're 8th in rushing. They're not a totally defensive team. No more are the days of the steel curtain. But they've totally changed their identity, and they've done it in a way that benefits them. And Le'Veon Bell, you know, I'm going to eat my words because he's a star. He is a stud. He's the second best rusher in the league behind DeMarco Murray. The Steelers are the biggest surprise to me, and they're the biggest surprise that they might make the playoffs in a very tough division.
Definitely a different recipe for success for Pittsburgh, going with that offense instead of the defense to their 8-5 record so far this year. So that's it for me. Griffin will still be with you after the break as he brings in on a guest on Good Morning KU. Stay with us.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you your identity for life. The University of Kansas. A great place to be you.
Welcome into Good Morning KU. I'm Griffin Hughes. Joining me is Onye. He's the president of ASA, and there's a big event tomorrow. It's the Discussions on Africa Leadership Summit. It's tomorrow from 4:15 to 8:15. Onye, break down the event for us. What can we be looking for?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me in here today. I'm the president of the Africa Students Association here at KU, and we're putting up this event. It's called the Leadership Summit. It's the first ever that we've had. And we're doing it differently because in the past, ASA has been involved in all kinds of sociocultural shows, fashion shows, dance, and all that. But this time around, we're trying to build people's capacity to be better leaders in their communities here in the United States and also across the world and in Africa.
Why is it important for students to get involved with this kind of event?
Oh, it's very important. I have a very colorful growing up experience. I grew up in Australia, in Western Australia to be exact. I've lived in Europe also. I've lived in Nigeria, in West Africa, and now I'm in the United States. So I'm more or less what you might describe as a global citizen. Now, if you want to look at, if you're looking at an international career, you need to know what's going on internationally. And so it's no more an era where people come to class and they teach you stuff and you're like, oh, okay, I can read this from the textbook. No, you need to come out and hear actual people, practitioners, and people who have in-depth insights into what's going on out there. You need to come and listen to us and to get involved in what's going on, because to tell you the truth, what happens in Africa affects America. What happens in Europe affects America. What happens in Oceania or in Asia, it affects Americans all the way.
Well, that's very impressive. I've lived in the same house my entire life, so you've lived in more continents than I have houses. That's incredibly impressive to me. Why is it important for students to know about Africa and get involved with this event in particular?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, the University of Kansas has the only African Studies Center in the whole state of Kansas. A very well-to-do center, very prestigious research going on. I was part of a conference on Africa Studies here in October, and the university has a Department of African and African American Studies. Of course, we know about the Office of Multicultural Affairs and efforts by this university to try and encourage diversity and equality among the students, among staff, among the faculty members. And so the world, like I said earlier, it's evolving. You know, diversity is the thing. You need to know how to relate to people across cultures, because whether we like it or not, culture is something that it differs from one place to the next. And if you want to be an effective manager in a private business, in a public establishment, or what have you, you need to know how to interact with people from other places.
Onye, thank you so much. I'm going to ask you one last question. If there's a student in here, and there's lots of students in here,
Yes.
if they have nothing to do on Tuesday, and they're saying, oh, you know, I don't know if I should go to this event, you know, they're kind of up in the air, what would you say to them to make them go to this very important event?
Absolutely. I'd say, well, there's nothing like a presidential welcome. Come on. If the president will be at the gate to welcome you personally, I mean, that's something to start with. But then moving beyond that, I'd like to invite you all to come. This program is free. It's free entry. We have refreshments going on. We have at least 24 faculty members who are confirmed, and these are all tenured professors here at the University of Kansas. We have guest speakers from across the state of Kansas, Topeka, Kansas City, and we have a keynote speaker who's coming in from the University of Illinois, a very seasoned social worker and project manager. So depending on the kind of career you're looking at, depending on who your friends really are, depending on what you want, whether you want to be a global citizen or a Lawrence citizen, this is the chance for you to come and hear about what's going on, to share with your friends, and to be part of a global community, which we enjoy here at KU.
Onye, thank you so much for joining us. The African Student Leadership, or the Discussions on Africa Leadership Summit, tomorrow, 4:15 to 8:15.
4:55.
4:55.
Yes.
Wow, I need to do my research a little bit better. Thank you so much
That's
for coming on and joining us, President of ASA.
Thank
Coming
you
up
so much.
after the break, we've got Gabby and Lane with the news. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Gabby Naylor.
And I'm Lane Kofis, and this is your Good Morning KU News Update. Al-Qaeda captures killed an American photojournalist and a South African teacher this weekend after a failed rescue attempt by U.S. Special Forces. The two men were kidnapped last year, and this was the second attempt to rescue American Luke Summers. The rescue team landed about 2 miles away from the Al-Qaeda compound, but as they were approaching, a noise gave them away and a firefight started, giving the captors time to kill hostages before the SEALs could reach them. The South African Pierre Corky was reported about a release on ransom.
Rolling Stone published an account of an alleged gang rape at UVA last month and is now facing allegations of discrepancies in their reporting. The publication of the story caused UVA to suspend all Greek life activities until the spring semester, but now the fraternity where the suspended rape took place said that it never had a date function that night. Friends of the victim questioned the key details in the story, causing Rolling Stone to apologize for placing false trust in the victim. After receiving critiques for their original apology, the magazine edited it to remove all blame from the victim.
A typhoon made landfall in the Philippines over the weekend, killing more than 20 people. The storm Hagupit is making its way across the country. It has been downgraded to a tropical storm. Several citizens will be returning home today after being evacuated to see how much damage the storm caused.
Prince William and Kate arrived in New York City last night, their first trip to the city. Their toddler, Prince George, stayed home due to the couple's busy schedule. On the agenda is a Brooklyn Nets-Cleveland Cavaliers game tonight, at which they are expected to spend time with the celebrity couple, Beyonce and Jay-Z.
University researchers and the Lawrence police worked together on a traffic safety experiment at 2 intersections in Lawrence. The experiment started in July 2013, investigated the addition of blue lights at an intersection in the aid of helping police catch red light runners. After just 3 months with the lights installed, they saw a decrease in people running red lights. They believe that there is an advantage to using these blue lights and send their findings to the Mid-America Transportation Center.
KU student Shelby Lawson recently published a Facebook status featuring a detailed misconceptions of the Ferguson decision. The status quickly went viral when it was included in a blog titled Kansas Exposed. While many found the article intriguing and helpful, Lawson has since received several direct and indirect threats via social media, prompting her to make all of her online profiles private.
And that will wrap it up for today's news update. Stay tuned, and after the break, we'll be back with the weather.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back into Good Morning KU. We have Jack Caldwell outside the Kansas Union. Jack, what's the weather look like out there?
Well, right now it's about mid-40s and pretty sunny, so it feels pretty good, and it'll warm up to about low to mid-50s later today.
So the next couple days in the middle of the week, what can we expect for the weather?
The next couple days we won't be as lucky as we are today. It'll be dropping down into the 40s, and it'll be a little chillier and cloudy.
Fantastic. Now, this is the last week of class, obviously, for the Kansas students. Friday is stop day where there's no classes. And so what does the weekend look like as kids either go out for the last time or maybe start preparing for the finals?
Yeah, well, it'll be about the same as far as the clouds go later this weekend, but it'll be up in the mid to high 50s even, except the only downside is there a possibility of rain on Sunday, 70% chance.
Fantastic, Jack. Thank you. That's our weekend outlook from Jack Caldwell outside the Student Union. That's it for Good Morning KU, our final show of the year. From myself and the rest of the crew, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate your viewership. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a fantastic semester.